and welcome everyone in the session, ladies and gentlemen. I've been given quite a number of stakeholders that are present here today. The session is an interaction between us and those stakeholders, but somebody will talk to the purpose of the meeting. Just to indicate that it's a session that is arranged for us to interact with the stakeholders. My understanding here is that we have vessel owners, we have operators, we have the Maritime Business Chamber, we have the shipping industry, we have off-port limits, and we have NAFCO. I've been given this list. I know that there are quite a lot of other people here that are more from the government departments and some other organizations. But the stakeholders I've listed are the stakeholders, in my understanding, that will be making representation today to both the deputy ministers and all of us here. Without wasting much time, because we don't have much time at all, can I then invite the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Mr. Sweya, to come and make reflections on the purpose of the day.
Good afternoon. Deputy Minister of Public Enterprise, Honorable Maswele, MECs and mayors present here, representatives of the business sector, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I counted all of you seated, you are 128. Good afternoon, how are you? Are you fine? I'm trying to break the ice for you so that you can relax. You seem tense. It's not good because we're supposed to have an engagement. Let me start by apologizing. We had initially planned that we will start at 2 o'clock. According to my watch, we're a few minutes late, and I know in the business world, time is money. So we apologize for that. We had an early morning from 6:30 until now. We are very happy that you responded to the invitation to come and have a dialogue with government. As you would know, we have what we call the National Development Plan 2030. In 2015, we then had what we call Operational Phakisa. And in that space, part of the areas which were identified for catalytic as an agent to fast track and ensure that we reach the targets of the NDP, especially around Chapter 3, which is centered around the economy, was the maritime and the ocean economy space. Through the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation, we have decided that for the year of 2030, we are going to monitor sectors which need intervention so that they can assist us to respond to the call of the NDP in relation to creating of jobs, inequality, unemployment, and poverty. This is our first project that we're doing today, and we chose PE as a center that we are going to come and engage and observe and look at what positive strides we've achieved ever since 2015 to date, where are the shortfalls, and where do we think we can improve. From the morning, we went to see the bunkering, we went to even other sites, the Kwega site, and we had reflections with Transnet in terms of what role are they playing in that space. Your importance is because for the success of the NDP, we cannot do it alone as government. The NDP talks about private sector coming to play to assist us to reach our goals. In fact, as government, we will not have the capacity to create the targeted jobs which we have set for ourselves in the NDP. That can only happen if we can assist in creating an enabling environment for you to be able to participate in the economic space. And therefore we have called this session that after we have reflected on our own to see where we are we having our shortfalls, let us maybe go and speak with the business community so that they can be able to tell us that you also need to correct here and here. You also need to fast track and repeal this act, make it more friendlier for business to be able to thrive. We are also more interested in ensuring that the sector is more transformed and those who are historically disadvantaged can find space to play in this space. That's why I'm saying to you, I'm worried if you are tense because I am not sure if you will be able to utilize this space to speak to us about where do you think we are going wrong. We are here to listen to you. We have called you because we believe that we might think we are doing things correctly. You might be walking and thinking that government does not necessarily have an interest. They are pulling this way, they are speaking, but they don't know that there are these impediments which they need to work on. And basically that is why we have called the session today. We then requested that because we are output orientated and we believe that we are not in loggerheads with you, and that because you are organized yourself, and that is why the program director was able to read that the representations would come from the vessel owners, operators, this and that we are hoping that you have had your own sessions where you have made consolidated submissions to say this is where we think we can transform and assist our government to be able to respond, and with the 10 years that is remaining, the NDP does not become a failure. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. Right, I take it that as indicated by the Office of the Premier, all the stakeholders, as indicated earlier, are going to take the platform and present. Can we have somebody presenting on behalf of the operators?
Yes, my name is Costa and I represent Minerva Bunkering Marine Services. We started the operation of bunkering in Algoa Bay in 2016 after 4 years trying to take the license. After us, the other two operators came because, as you well know, exclusivity is not allowed in South Africa. Now my question is the following, my first question is that the government has initiated the operation of Phakisa, but we have a feeling that they didn't change one law to support that operation. And I would like to know what your intentions are. If you intend to amend some laws, for example, the Custom and Exiles Act is from 1964, so it's impossible to apply in today's operation years. This is my first question. My second question is, why the different government departments, which they belong to the government, they don't speak each other? So you might go to Transnet, for example, but they've got different laws than the Transnet port authorities. Or you might go to SARS and you have to register to 10 different departments of SARS. And when you speak to somebody, he tells you, listen, you have to apply to us, and then go to the other one and go to the other one, and you find in the end you cannot do your job. So this is the two questions that I have for you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies and Honorable Deans, all protocol observed. On the back of Pastor's question, so my name is Imbizo. I am the CEO of Herring Marine. I'm the third bunker operator. The operations that you saw this morning were ours. On the back of Costa's question is literally the issue of how you are deeming these import taxes, and we are asking that as the Honourable Ministers, to put it out there that we have a booming economy, we have potential to do a lot for a city and a province that literally is struggling due to the economic downturn and everything else. If we are looking at what is out there, SARS is coming to us and saying that we must now pay the taxes upward and then claim them back, what you saw this morning will literally go away, which means that the opportunities that we are trying to achieve are gone. And for us, it's saying, if you are looking at an NDP and achieving the 2030 requirements of an NDP, how do you then expect us to do that? Especially when our licensing conditions force us to look at localization, force us to then say, we are members working within the sovereign of South Africa, yet we cannot participate and bring in foreign direct investments when we have our hands tied behind our backs at all times. So we are asking the Honourable Ministers, how do you then expect us to create the jobs? We have examples, Honourable Minister. There's an example of a country called Togo in the west coast of Africa that literally no one knows about. But because of the offshore bunkering operations, they were able to create 45,000 jobs just off the offshoots of what can happen from the services that you see from out there. And that's our plea to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last one from the operators.
Hi everyone, my name is...
And I hope you are the third operator.
I am one of the previous. I won't call third. My name is Yamtanda Maina. I am from the company named South African Marine Fuels. We've been operating in the Bay from May 2018. I think at the back of both of the contributions my colleagues brought, there are two areas that the legislation is lacking in, meaning the VAT Act as well as the Customs and Excise Act. The fact that we're not covered with the current legislation, or the fact that the authorities are wanting to implement the current existing legislation which does not fit what we do, it means that the country is affected in a sense that we cannot use locally produced fuels because of that. Because already when we use that, it means we have to put in a 15% VAT markup, which we cannot pass on to our customers. Already that takes us out of the market. A bunkering industry is a very price-sensitive industry. I mean, with the new legislation that has been brought by with cleaner fuels, already the cost of shipping is high, meaning that our customers are price-sensitive, and therefore any legislative measures that are put in place that tie our hands in the bag means that we cannot compete with the international market. And I agree with Khomozo, we have a lot of case studies of where here in Africa, offshore bunkering is thriving. That's number one. Number two, in terms of the customs and excise, because we are treated as importers, even though we are not importing, even though we are transshipping, then that already raises duties and taxes that, yes, we may get it 12 months down the line, but it means that us as companies need to carry the cost of paying those funds into SARS. With lack of any legislation that covers how do we recover those costs, because we are being treated as if we're doing it quayside airport. So for us, we would like the ministers and the deputy ministers to help us to find a solution to this. For instance, a simple solution would be that of a bonded facility. If we would be allowed to have our vessels bonded to give security to SARS and a structure for them to be able to get what they are due, then already we are able then to activate what has to happen in the internal, South African economy, as well as be able to sell to our South African counterparts as well, which we can't at this stage, because we have no way of claiming back whatever dues and debts that we would have sent to them. And that's my contribution.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair, and greetings again this afternoon. Together with the Deputy Minister at Department of Monitoring and Evaluation, we are sort of agreeing that there may have been in the communication this way of phrasing that led to the expectation that we come in here in an answer question and answer session. We do have officials here, but I think we want to have an enriched conversation. Enriched in the sense that your experiences regarding what works and what doesn't work, we can be able to have that conversation so that inside government we're able to then nudge those areas to be in alignment so that we can be able to say, this is what will work best and this is what to enable it needs to happen. Government, the president would say this many a times, that it's not just going to take the actions of government alone to comprehend and fully confront the challenges that our society faces. It's going to take the actions of government together with civil society in its different formations, sector-specific interest groups like you are, to share the wisdom, share the observations, so that what needs to be attended to in government can get that attention. So I think this is my plea at the moment, without responding as yet to the two, I think that the points that the chair was trying to summarize that come from the three presenters that have spoken. Basically, you can, in trying to just relate to that, they are talking to things that are constraining their ability to achieve better. So without it being a question, it's more an expression of the challenges that they confront on the day-to-day. If attended to by government, we can be able to we can take away that and have the kind of success as exemplified by the example given of Togo. We might want to take interest in that. We do have officials here, but rather if we could frame our contributions in that way. If you had prepared questions, you can still proceed with that. But indeed, you can locate, contextualize your questions because they arise out of the experience you have in what you are endeavoring to do, where we can come together. That's the message that I think from government, particularly the emphasis. There are a number of platforms like this. At a national level, the president meets with different sectors, he meets with the leadership of business across society to try and extract how best we can do things so that businesses can thrive. I think some of the things related to delays in terms of permits and all of that, I hear now there is something to do with customs and excise. It's something that we must fully comprehend with to come with proposals on how it can be dealt with. So please, so that we have this being a conversation than an us and them type of thing, if we could frame it like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister Maswale. And thanks for that input.
Thank you very much. And firstly, I can put my views. My name is Andy Willard, I'm from Buka Marine. I'll stand behind what Komotso and everyone else said about the need to get clarity, but I think on things like policy and tax, but I think it is part of a bigger issue. Buka Marine has brought 3 ships onto the register. It was initially brought into being as a way of, as a pilot project with SAMSA, who has the statutory obligation or responsibility for industry development, as a project to see if the South African register could be or was competitive. And I think we managed to demonstrate that there's absolutely no reason why the South African register should be considered uncompetitive, or why South African seafarers should be seen as in any way inferior to their global counterparts. There might be a bit of a lag in terms of both building the base up, but I think there's no reason to believe that the South African maritime industry can't thrive. I think from our perspective, the key thing is what I call policy alignment. I think you'll find a lot of energy in the private sector, on the offshore banking side and others, even on the shipowning side, international shipping, coastal shipping, about people wanting to get into the game and showing a lot of energy and even bringing a lot of capital. The key thing is for government to be struggling in the same direction, both with private sector and with each other. And I think when it comes to issues like tax, I'm not so sure it's actually, or any other law that you mentioned the consistency with law, with what we're doing. I'm not sure law has to be changed. It just needs to be interpreted and applied in the way that policy directs and that was intended. So from our perspective, we think this is a very important industry. I think that Phakisa directed several 100,000 jobs to be created, and we think that's eminently doable. What we do believe needs to happen is a single, consistent forum across government to deal with maritime affairs, representing all affected ministries, and then to form some kind of compact with the private sector so we can all at least know what each other wants. At this point in time, I wouldn't know what SARS wants out of maritime. I can surmise that they would want a larger tax base, a contribution, a higher level of repatriated earnings, etc., lower, reduced use of foreign service providers, but no one's ever put that in paper. So I think there's a great deal that can be done. We're growing far more slowly than we should be or could be or want to be. And that pretty much that's all because of stumbling blocks on the regulatory side. So I would, if I was to frame this as a question, I'd frame it by saying, is there no way that we can put together a high-level representative body from all affected government departments that we can meet regularly between industry and that body to talk through how policies to be interpreted, what laws need to be enacted, what is the best way forward, what is going to show the most likely path of success, and if we need to agree between ourselves the most important fundamental outcome that we're chasing, whether it's job creation or fleet growth or whatever it is, that we agree about between ourselves rather than assume it.
Very much. Two of them here. Yes. For the second. Oh, yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Innocentia Mutau, and I'm with MSC, Mediterranean Shipping Company, the largest container shipping line in South Africa and the second biggest in the world. I am a beneficiary of their enterprise development program, which is pretty massive, and I'm doing all the customs work in-house for them. They churn about 7 vessels a week, and I'm also ship's agent for them on the loading and discharging and all the concierge of a container vessel at all South African ports. So when you just ask me to speak, I don't have issues. The issues are about how I want to commend government actually, because we've gone through a very difficult phase as the container industry in the past 6-7 months. The ports have not been very productive and efficient. It's been very painful when you know, I'm 10 years in the industry, when you know that 3-4 years ago, Durban was giving us 25 moves an hour, we get to about between 6 and 13 as we speak. And what's the problem for that? You wonder. One is equipment. Maintenance regimes were not where they're supposed to be, and you're not hiring people. Operations Phakisa's main focus is to change jobs, and I don't think we're doing enough. Or we're taking it too serious for us to make the ports efficient so that the multinationals can bring cargo and create those jobs. But in the last 3 months, Transnet has pulled up its socks a bit, and there's an order book on equipment, cranes, straddle carriers, RTG, where there has been of an impact in the last few years. Climate change is a reality, so every port is mostly wind-bound, especially in Mocha. You could have seen from 1 o'clock, the wind regime started changing, the profile changes around that time, and we can't operate containers. That means there's no work, there are no jobs. So we need to buy equipment that talks to the kind of challenge we have as a country. Cape Town, I'll come back to that. Cape Town, as I said, MS is the largest. It's got bigger ships that can't still come to South Africa. Why? Because the mouth is too small. We can accommodate bigger ships. Bigger ships means bigger volumes, bigger jobs, and it's good for the country. So we need to look at initiatives that are also infrastructural of nature, and that we actually open taps for cargo to actually be directed to South Africa as a gateway that it is. Ship repair. We have a dry dock in Durban. Durban is the main hub. Every ship that comes to South Africa must go to Durban. It's old. It's been catering for small ships. I'm going to give you an example, the partner. When the fatal storm happened on the 10th of October 2 years ago, the MSC Inez blocked the mouth where it went aground, it had to be repaired. The owner of the shipping line that I work for said, but why don't you repair it in South Africa? And he said, yes, we raised our hands, and it took us 3 months to repair the MSC Inez in a lay-by berth, in water, and created everything that needed to happen for us to repair that ship. What I'm trying to say is that there is capability. We need to scale it. Ships are getting bigger, technology is improving. We can only hire, 15 people on board the ship. It won't create those jobs. We can flag, but it will create very minimal jobs. But ship repair, on a day, you guarantee 200 jobs a day. MSC is raising his hand with 15 ships we want to bring to come be repaired here in South Africa, but we need a bigger dry dock. Lastly, we run cruise ships, and through the DTI, MSC couldn't, when they had to do the BE, they couldn't offer ownership, and DTI gave them an option of spending a lot of money in skills development and employment creation, which they did and passed. So we are planning to employ 5,000 young South Africans on board our cruise ships the world over, from officers to hospitality, and we've started the process. It's launched last month, and I'm very happy to discuss it further. The province of the Eastern Cape are doing well in giving us the ruralness of the rural kids for us to train, to put on board our cruise ships. And we hope it gets to 10,000. I'm patriotic, I work for a multinational, but I'm looking at the skilling that we need to have to partner the infrastructural initiatives we're doing as a country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MSC.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nomkita Mbele. I work for Phakisa Marine, and we do STS, which is ship-to-ship transfers, mostly in ports and offshore. And I think our main problem, we have been trying for the past 18 months to get permissions or a license to operate offshore, mainly assisting the bunker operators and also bringing our own tires. And I think the problem is that there is really no regulation. There is no standard. Every time we go back, the goalpost shifts. First is this thing, we go over that hurdle, it's the next hurdle, it's the next hurdle. Now the problem we have is that we have foreign investment coming in here. We have companies or investors that have been waiting for 18 months. And for 18 months we've been saying, we're going to get it next month, we're going to get it next month, we're going to get it next month. As in 2 years. And unfortunately, people are running impatient. Investors are running impatient. And we're asking for government to work together, Transnet, SAMSA, Department of Transport, everybody involved to come together and assist us. We need to do better for the country. We need to do better for the Eastern Cape. There's so much that can be done offshore, and everybody is willing to come together as private sector and make it happen. But government is just not working with us. And I think today our plea is, let's just please work together with government and just make it happen faster. 18 months is not a good time, and there's still no answer. And we're still waiting, and it could be another 18 months, we're not sure.
Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Ayan Rayani. I'm an executive Maritime Business Chamber. We've got a couple of contributions that you bear with me. The first one being the tariffs that are currently in place do not really, we feel that they do not speak to SMEs. The tariff prices are exorbitant, and a billionaire and someone who's looking for entry into the space, they pay the same tariffs. And over and above that, turnaround time, lead times in terms of getting these licenses and approvals, it's taking too long. currently as things are structured, they do not speak to SMMEs at all. So number 3, we feel aggrieved because there is respect of monitoring of transformation in the industry. There are standards in place, there are requirements in place in as far as licensing is concerned, VESA, VE in transformation, but the board in terms of who monitors that transformation, it's being, no one is accounting in terms of monitoring transformation. Basically, those that own licenses, those that have the responsibility and who are tasked to see that transformation takes place, it's carte blanche. SMMEs on their own. So we need a transformation monitoring committee in place that involves stakeholders who have got an appetite to see that taking place. I won't touch everywhere tax laws, we've already been touched on. Another issue we have is with the BE compliance. Currently, big players in the industry are only required to have a level 4 BE status, which again speaks against the very same thing that government wants to achieve. Because if you're a level 4 BE, you don't have to deal with ownership. We are not only interested in access to markets, we're not only interested in contracts and participating in the industry, but we also want to see wealth creation filtered down to our members. And that means ownership in the ownership within those companies that are key in the value chain. Now, please attend to this issue of BE. We require at least a level 2 BE compliance, so that people, whether they want to or not, are forced to ensure that the previously disadvantaged are owners in the sector. Number 5, funding mechanisms. Because sometimes people get orders and you must perform within 10 hours. And if you understand the nature and the character of SMMEs and some of the people that are trying to assist, they do not fit within the mechanisms that are in place for people to participate. We need a funding mechanism that is two-pronged. Number 1, to ensure that people are quickly assisted financially to perform when they receive work. But number 2, as a chamber, we've developed a value chain that focuses on the primary, secondary, and tertiary approach of cooperatives. And right in the Midwest, in the secondary level, we need assets so that we can also participate meaningfully in this sector. And we need funding that speaks to SMMEs in as far as securing these necessary assets. Also, access to markets. We sit in these meetings and talk shows and whatever, but when we leave this place, SMMEs are on their own. Because the people that currently own the factors of production in the sector, most of which are gatekeepers, it is not easy for SMMEs to access the markets, to access opportunities. People have built long-term relationships and they claim ownership of this industry. So there is a serious problem of access to markets, to a point where government really needs to seriously consider developing a parallel maritime economy where we develop agencies and operators that have got appetite to see this industry transforming. Another point, in some of these documents, when you are applying to participate in this sector in one way or the other, there are requirements that you must be part of some organizations, like for example SASOA, which we feel do not speak to the needs and aspirations of SMMEs. It is an unfair condition to force us, in order for us to participate, we must be members of organizations that we see as stumbling blocks within the transformation agenda in this sector. Please consider that one as well. Another point, our local offices are not equipped or mandated to deal with licensing issues locally. please see to it that offices such as the DF are capacitated so that when we're dealing with licensing issues, we can go to local offices that will attend to us promptly. And the last one, as a chamber, we are looking at the participation of our members in this sector as long term. And we cannot do that outside of ownership of all the warehouses and many other assets that are necessary. But one of the hindrances is that you take a lease agreement form from Transnet, and the requirements that are there do not speak to SMEs. They speak to those people that have been in the industry benefiting for a long time. So it is no surprise that you will go to these buildings and do not find SMEs that are trying to participate in that space because of the terms that are imposed on SMEs. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We don't have a question per se, but would like to maybe ask the ministry and everyone who is involved in the maritime sector, maybe if you can send us a report, a comprehensive report on the inclusion of black business within the space, particularly this Operation Phakisa and Oceans Economy. We've been talking about Oceans Economy and Operation Phakisa, I think, since 2017 or earlier, and we have nothing on written that states the inclusion of black business. Maybe the points that were raised by our counterparts here, most of them, they are valid, but we don't want to come here and make accusations that nothing is being done for black business. Let us rather have the report first, so that when we get that report, as you have correctly said, that this is not the first and the last engagement. When you come back again, we can engage on that report and look at the progress that we have made, in particularly including the black business in the sector. Thank you very much. My name is Krika, by the way, from NAFCOC.
Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Lutando Mkijima and from the chamber. Mine is just a comment for this leadership. You guys, you are prescribing solutions, but you don't dig down about the problems. You've been promising us for more than 20 years, if I can be frank. If I can remember vividly, Mr. Pumulo, you went to Joburg, that was 2016. You recruited us to come to Eastern Cape. You promised us about the opportunities. Up until today, nothing. I don't have confidence on this leadership, I'll be honest with you. Because you've been promising, but nothing. That is why other communities, they revolt, because they are frustrated. Thank you.
With all my experiences with the talk shows and engagements like this, we always fail to put time frames to all these challenges and things that was highlighted towards the leadership. And the leadership come up with a date where with all these concerns will be responded to. Because so far, leadership did not give any response, or obviously no resolution as yet to all these challenges. And let us not play with words. Questions are being asked, all these things have been mentioned, and I'm asking the direct question, Honorable Deputy Minister, by when will the next one be? Because the NCC theory is the first one, so going to be the last one. So we want answers, and we don't want debates. Ask a question, there needs to be an answer. And I hope the next session, Deputy Minister, is going to be not within 18 months, because within 18 months, you might not be sitting in that seat, because that is happening a lot of times. You come with this thing, you started it, when you come with the response, you're not in that seat. Then you start from scratch again. Thank you very much.
I'll speak to others. Others, I'm noting them as submissions that you're making. I'm going to request that, I think from, I can't remember the organization there. You seemed like when you were making the presentation, you were reading from somewhere. We're requesting that in writing, if you can give it to us. There's a lady who said she was forced to speak, and she was speaking about how many jobs they've created and so on. And I'm interested in the model. If you can also bring those submissions before we leave. When I started here, I said, we have taken the initiative because we have seen that there is a gap. Now, what we need to all of us appreciate is that this platform that we have created is because, like I said, we might think we are doing it correctly and we are not. For example, I'm very happy that you have raised the question of SARS and that we need to have a platform where SARS come and they are able to state their case and you are able to state your case. For operational Phakisa to work in 2015, if you remember, in the presidency you had a minister called Jeff Radebe. He used to chair an interministerial committee of Operation Phakisa, especially on the ocean economy. And our reports, which I do not have now, which I can make sure that you get them, is that when that committee was in existence, certain number of jobs were created, the economy was booming, there were things that were happening. What we have found out ourselves, and that is why we have said, let us prioritize this post the Cabinet Lekgotla. It is because, one, for example, in that conversation, SARS was not there. And it's a mistake which we have made. And what we have resolved on is that we are going to revive that structure because it was no longer in existence. The structure assists us that at a political level, we will be able to meet with deputy ministers who are relevant. Transport must be here, we must have environment, public enterprises, and so on. And all of us must be able, they are going to be coordinated at a presidency level. We have consciously resolved that we are going to coordinate and revive that structure. Post that structure which will be existing, you must be able to call all relevant officials. SAMSA must come, officials in transport and so on and so on. And that is where we are going to find solutions. The issues of repealing an act, for example, we are very much aware that if you speak to SARS, they will tell you about a 1964 act. Then when they want to respond, they will tell you about another post-1994 act. And there is conversations about why are they clashing? What is the solution which you are supposed to find from us? It must also not come out as if you are saying you do not want to pay tax or VAT. And those are conversations which we want to revive and leverage on them. It is not like when we said here, we came to you and we said, we want to have a conversation with you. We did not have some idea about where are the impediments. But this gives us assurance that probably what we have and we think is a problem is somehow aligned. But I'm also glad that when I was listening here, there are other areas which you are alerting us that maybe even here you are missing it, especially on SMMEs, for example, and that there's an entity that is working and there's jobs, and if we could do so much, you want bigger ships to arrive in particular ports. East London must be renovated and upgraded. It's old and so on. There's an issue of a bunkering license, which you have written there in your note. I will not speak about it. I note it as a concern. You wrote it as the first line, that bunkering is not, I just forgot the word. It's there in the paper there. It does not, yes. And it's something which is of a concern, and something we have to look at. I am not so sure. There's conversations in relation to the Department of Transport. So Vanti will assist me with the wording, especially about a maritime fund. It's a conversation that we have been having some time. The question is, how far are we going to ensure that it becomes a full reality to assist our people? And I think in that committee, those are things which we must be able to speak about, because I know that it has been a conversation which has been going on for some time. In addition to other funding models which are there in the country. I think I'm done. Just a little advice is that if contradictions, any contradictions in society are informed by the fact that we want to find solutions and we need to have conversations, it would not be so good for us that for a human being to walk, the left leg must go to the front, the other one must go to the back for mobility to be there. I am bringing this narrative so that you must not at one stage say, we have been having conversations and therefore we are tired. And then if we don't have conversations, then what's going to happen? You're going to wake up and say, we are led by a government which is not talking to us or is not doing anything. And that's why I'm boldly saying to you, this conversation has been initiated by us. And it's not like there's not been so much progress. What I can commit to you is that we can give you reports to say, when that committee was in existence, operational Phakisa, these are the things which have been happening. And from our own reports, we have realized that since the collapse of that committee, things have not necessarily been moving so well. In fact, I am so confident that if that committee had continued to exist until today, some of these minor policy gaps would have been addressed. So let us continue to have the contradictions that we have are necessary for as long as they assist us to be able to move forward and fix what needs to be fixed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tia. Would you want to make comments now, Tia, as well? I think we are at that point now where we are wrapping up.
No, Chair, mine is very brief. I think towards the end, I think the last speaker was expressing anxiety in the sense that we should attach timelines. When are we coming back? Just as we came here on our own, because I think what I need to explain is there is a process led by the presidency to follow up on the decisions that had been taken, to see whether things are going as expected, what is the true state of affairs in the endeavor to try and alter the fortunes of us as a country. So in that respect, just as the Deputy Minister is indicating, we owe it to come back here, because one of the decisions that was made when Operation Phakisa was launched, there were identified some pilot projects throughout the country, and the Eastern Cape was identified here. We have to make it work, and part of coming here is to see to it that the efforts that have been initiated in that direction, are they bearing fruit? What are the impediments? Now that we have heard that the critical things that are stalling, for which if they were not to be attended, none of what was expected is to be seen, it makes us to have to come back here on that matter, in the same manner in which we are coordinated to come back, so that we can have a proper follow-through. The next conversation will be different than we are having now, because we have been sensitized of the main issues: customs and excise, tariffs, tax, all that, which is a function of the Treasury Department together with SARS. I think we have within ourselves first to knock each other into shape, to appreciate the role each one is contributing towards the larger idea. So that is a matter that we will come back here about. I think all the other things that enable the transformation, the issues of SMME participation and the perceived blockages in that regard, I think those would form part of the next conversation. Given the urgency of the matter, it is something that I'm sure the presidency, together with the office of the premier, may really be very express as to when we should be here. There are things that are of an investment nature in respect of infrastructure in our ports, the speed with which the turnaround times are effected there. And I'm happy, I think the speaker who was speaking on the matter has acknowledged that Transnet is attempting, the Ports Authority, to really confront that matter in the acquisition of the necessary instrumentation to be able to manage. But certainly improvements further are still being worked at to ensure that we are not hampering businesses so that they can grow, they can be competitive in that environment. The issue of licenses, the regulations, I think we note the point, the frustrations that people have experienced in respect of the preciseness that this should actually be achieved in the shorter time than it is now. Again, I think there would have been at a time where the issue was the environmental impact assessment studies that would be taking too long. I think this issue now is also amongst those in which we've got to look at how government services can be streamlined such that decision-making is quicker at the point. The other person was speaking to the devolution and that the offices that are nearer are equipped with the necessary decision-making. It's a matter that we will take back, digest, and come back on it. The Upodlutano there, that wouldn't have been personal, but I do understand the angle from which you're coming from in respect of the expectations. Indeed, we did go out at some point and invited all the people to come, particularly those who come from the Eastern Cape, to come and invest their skills here. Some were very successful, some may not have been that successful, but we should keep trying. And I'm sure as any business person, you know that you keep trying, you never give up, never give up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. I think we cannot close this session without a few people speaking, two only. But I think it's important also to say that the Eastern Cape has just completed its master plan on oceans economy. And that master plan will be launched sometime now in February. Emerging from that master plan, in fact, following the master plan, we are going to have an engagement session that would then talk about all that will be found in the master plan and how we are going to work with the stakeholders in the industry in the achievement of what is found in that master plan. So that's from the side of the Eastern Cape. I think the date of the launch might be on the 19th, but from the 19th then we'll start working on that master plan. There are people that have been working together with the Nelson Mandela University in crafting that master plan, and now the master plan is complete. But I think it would be amiss if I do not allow SAMSA to, not to respond, but to say something on what was said here.
Thank you, Program Director, my MSA, making me speak after my political principles. That's why I can't provide any additional responses. We as SAMSA are quite grateful about this opportunity. We generally stand between government and industry, and we are part of government. And so it does assist us when this dialogue is taking place, because our objective, which is stated in our founding legislation, is that we shall ensure the promotion of South Africa's maritime interest. And so it does, one of that maritime interest, as far as we are concerned, is that we shall see a lot of maritime activity leading to economic opportunities for the country. We've got a stated view that we shall drive South Africa, assist South Africa to become a vibrant maritime economy. So thank you very, very much, Program Director and my Deputy Ministers here. But I think just the two issues, or maybe three issues, that we see that will assist us to drive this economy. We've spoken about bunkering and its economic spin-offs, and I'll come back to that just now. I liked the opportunity around ship repair, and I do think that the discussion between MSC as well as Transnet must take place. Fortunately, the Deputy Minister is agreeing to house that discussion, which is what we've generally not been able to do. And then so you've got ship repair, which is likely to drive the jobs. You've got what we call the Maritime Youth Development Program, this cruise tourism. MSC drove that, they spoke about it. We've got a new partner, AIDA, that's joining in that space. And it is our view that we can get a whole lot of partners to take. It is metrics that we take from the rural areas to find international jobs for them. And I do think that it is where we really could concentrate our energies. Eastern Cape MSC did very well because they support that program, and out of it they tell us where to source by agreement. And it does appear that we will get somewhere. So the one thing though that I needed, we're having a discussion with the chamber, the local chamber here, and DM, we did agree that we shall, these operators, and I thought that we might just mention it, that there is a need for a localized fund, and they agreed to contribute to that fund, so that via that fund, we will be able to fund the risk that might arise from time to time, so that we give guarantees for the environmental protection. And I think that becomes a good thing for the environmentalists who are worried that where is this money going to come from should we have incidents that lead to pollution within the bunkering sector. As well as the second part, this chamber that they have said they need some kind of funding to be assisted. It does look like via that mechanism there may just be a way to get that funding extended to the chamber itself so that the chamber can combine its business. I think I can speak for the tripartite in saying that, yes, they're nodding. So you can take that as one of the resolutions. There is funding made available by the bunkering operators for purposes of risk management, but more importantly, for purposes of SMME development. And I think that is one outcome for this week that we ought to celebrate. Lastly, for me, the way forward, particularly on this offshore bunkering, again, to give comfort to the environmentalists and all those people who are afraid of the risk. We did say that we would not be issuing any licenses and any decision in that regard until we undertake a holding capacity study for the bay. How many ships can you take in the bay? And once you've done that, then you can tell if the bay is getting congested or not. You're coming up to the limit. And that study will give rise to a certain set of questions, and there is a stakeholder engagement group that is dealing with that issue. So I do not think that program director is all lost. I do think that we've covered quite a bit of ground, but we considered it important that those that we are regulating over come and tell us what it is that we could do better on. So from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of SAMSA, I think I would want to thank everybody that made this one possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, MEC, Deputy Ministers, Executive Mayors, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. And Mashwandile Kwase from the Office of the Premier. Tukothekile babo kudla ngothunya amagosa aphendule ezondifana kuphendule then leadership iqoqosho. Umcimbi kodwa ndibeke kule ndawo ke kodwa. Inkosi kakhulu MEC. I think the MEC has spoken to the work that has been done by provincial government working with the Department of Environmental Affairs and NMMU, Nelson Mandela University, to put together a blueprint of where we want to go in the space of the oceans economy in the province. So that we are very concrete on the focus areas that we need to hone in, the kind of projects, catalytic projects, that will ensure that we are able to contribute as a province in the GDP, as well as create jobs, as well as address issues of transformation. So I think the MEC has spoken on that has been completed, and the Premier and the MEC is going to be launching that before the end of the month. But the intention is to have, after the launch, a summit where we will sit down to say, these are the opportunities that we have mapped. In that work that has been done, we have also mapped areas which we have not ventured into, where we do not have baseline information that we still need to research, because we have great potential in those areas, but we don't have information as of now. So we have identified areas of research which will help in the development of the maritime sector going forward. So there are also those issues that we have lifted there. We're hopeful that that engagement will really help us to point people to areas where there are opportunities. We need to attract investors, but you know our laws in the country, they require that people adhere to the PE compliance, so that we are able to ensure that our own people are part of those initiatives. I need to say, economic progress. Economic progress. Since 2014, when we launched Operation Phakisa in 2014. At the time we were starting, I think we started Bangarang in 2016. We were only having one operator, but now we're talking 3 operators. Department of Environmental Affairs is currently working on the value chain analysis of the oil and gas industry, with a view to ensure that we plug in our own people in and SMMEs in the areas where there's the greatest opportunity for growth in the whole sector, if you talk oil and gas. We are also doing some work in the space of aquaculture in terms of developing an aquaculture strategy of the province. Is already in a draft stage. We want to finalize it, which maps the potential of aquaculture and the different species in the whole province, where this one fits, where this one is more suitable, where this one is more suitable. So we also have potential even in that area. UGA has identified an aquaculture development zone, which will focus on mariculture as well as freshwater. So these are other areas where we need to ready ourselves to participate in. But lastly, MEC, I think the province has started 2 initiatives in terms of the funding. The Scalo Fund, which supports the small entrepreneurs to be able to start their own businesses. I think Good Economic Development is prepared to facilitate a session just to explain the Scalo, how it works and how do people apply it in the process. So they have committed the colleagues in Nazopaza that they can facilitate that. I think they'll also include in it the issue of the stimulus fund that has been set up by the provincial government. That's another area of opportunity to ensure that we support our SMEs and our own people that have got interest in a number of economic activities in the province.
Thank you very much, Khate. Thank you very much. The reason why I did not want clear responses to each question is that it was not going to take us anywhere. And I think the 4 people that have spoken have actually given a broad response to many of the questions. Remember, we said all of the inputs made must be submitted to us so that the Deputy Minister from the Presidency who was leading this delegation would then compile from her side a plan in which to address some of these matters and then communicate with us to say I will be coming back and deal with these matters. But we can't, Executive Mayor, leave here without you saying something.
Ngosi, Program Director, MEC Mvoko. Ko Deputy Minister Bubabini, Executive Mayor, dignitaries zonke ezikhoyo zika government, captains of the industry, as who are here today, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a long day, DM. We started very early today, but it's been a busy and a very insightful day. That is coming to an end. And mine is, as you have said, Program Director, is very short. Just to say on behalf of the residents and council of the city, to wish all our esteemed visitors and role players for the dynamic oversight, interaction and exchanges we witnessed today. It was a very important day for the city indeed. A huge vote of thanks must go to the Deputy Minister in the Presidency and the Kopi Mhlekazi. We appreciate, DM, your willingness to come down to the city and focus on some key issues that are so close to our hearts and close to the future of the Bay, such as the ocean's economy. One of them is the issue of the removal of the old dams, which has been with us for decades. And all residents in the Bay prick their ears when they hear a talk of it. While things often do not move as quickly as one wants, today has given us some good news and a positive affirmation of progress. A waterfront development will change the economic and physical face of the city. We urge our partners with Transnet to accelerate this project. Your interaction with local business and industrial leaders at the Imbizo here today, extremely interesting and of vital importance. Partnership between government and private sector is increasingly the way to go, and key to the success of both. You would have seen and heard the passion of our local business and industrial leaders not only to succeed and thrive, but to grow and develop the city in the region. But times are tough, and that's a reality. And they have to battle with a number of challenges. Some man-made, some not. But I am proud of their tenacity and their passion for this city. And I'm looking forward with you to the fruit of the interaction we witnessed today. All of us in this venue have a vested interest in rolling out the ocean's economy in the Bay and the enormous benefits that it can bring to this city and the broader Eastern Cape region. A bold strategy is clearly needed to help develop the untapped potential of the blue economy. We gain new perspective today on the inroads that are being made and also the challenges that are experienced. As a city, we want to reposition ourselves as a tourist destination. And for the city to grow, we need transport system and gateway to international markets and energy. From the municipality side going forward, I pledge you our full participation, support and cooperation in the relevant projects. Again, a very well thank you for this vital monitoring visit. I trust you all found it rewarding and productive, and you received answers to most of it. To most, if not all of your questions, that you developed a sense of the needed sustainable interventions to existing challenges. Thank you for partnering with us in the economic growth and development of the Nelson Mandela Bay region. Thank you very much, Minister Nobabini, and Wonge Umdolab, Program Director, Sebulela Kakhulu.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor, Mr. Buye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.